Hello my fellow Jeti users, and welcome back to Harry's Jeti programming clinic from my workshop. This involves a little tweak for the throttle, and it's a request from Michael James, who has been using the method I showed in having throttle and butterfly or crow on the same stick, episode 3. And what Michael has said is that he has the throttle disabled in everything except launch mode and the butterfly disabled in launch mode. But what he'd like is to be able to just activate the throttle having a minimum value of say 15%, but only in launch mode and only when he pulls say a spring-loaded switch, and that it would cancel this ability or cancel the minimum 15% when he switches out of launch mode. Can it be done? Certainly can. Surprise, surprise, it's logic switches. So we'll go off to Advanced Properties, Logical Switches. There are the 5 logic switches that deal with the throttle and air brake being on the same stick. Now initially I thought I would just use an A on B off switch, so that the spring switch would switch the ability on, and switching out of launch mode would switch it off. And that does the job. However, I felt there was a slight safety issue with that. Even when you're out of launch mode, so we can come into brake mode or default mode, any other flight modes. If you accidentally moved the spring-loaded switch, it would switch on the minimum 15% throttle. Now, of course, the motor wouldn't start because Michael has the motor disabled in everything except launch mode, but the system is armed, as it were, so that if he came back into launch mode, the throttle would immediately be at minimum 15%. In other words, the motor would start running, which I didn't feel was terribly safe. So I've added in an extra logic switch so that it can only activate and arm the system when you're in launch mode. So here we go. Here's our logic switch. We go into it. Control 1 for me is the spring-loaded switch. I pull it on to arm the system. Control 2 is the flight mode switch in launch mode. Yeah, so other modes is off, launch mode is assigned. OK to that. Use the AND condition. So then in the launch flight mode, if I pull the spring-loaded switch, it switches on for as long as I'm holding the spring-loaded switch. If I'm in any other flight mode, it cannot switch on. Okay, doc, you okay with that so far? Next we come to the next logic switch, and control 1 is logic switch that we've just created. Okay, so in launch mode, if I pull it, you can see it switches on just for the moment that I'm holding the spring-loaded switch. In the other modes, that control can't switch on. Control 2 is, and this is where it's sneaky, I'll clear it out to show you. Clear again. I have the flight mode switch in the mode next to launch. I'm going to pull it to launch, but then reverse it. Or sorry, it would not be reversed. Yeah, the problem is I've done this before, and so it tries to be sneaky and remember what we've done. It would look like that, and we're going to reverse it. So that's what it will look like when you're in switch in launch mode. It'll look like that. By reversing it, what we're saying is actually be off, now we've pulled it to launch mode, and go on in either of the other two places. Okie dokie. And then the condition is A on, B off. So the A, control 1, is only works in launch mode when we pull the trigger. There we go, you see? And we've released the spring-loaded switch, but it's now latched on. It doesn't matter how much we pull the spring-loaded switch, it stays there. But as soon as we come out of launch mode, control 2 is activated and it switches off. And because of the previous logic switch, the AND switch, we can't manage to get it accidentally back on until we come back into launch mode. Okie doke. Switch it off. Now, how do we make use of that? Well, we go to fine tuning, dual rate exponential, throttle, and we assign that logic switch as the dual rate switch. So you'll see if I go into launch mode, pull the spring-loaded switch, you can see it's switched on and we've gone to position 2. If I come out of launch mode, it cancels it and we're back to position 1 of the dual rates. Importantly, have the symmetry running so that you can edit these separately. And then if you activate the system, you see that you can have the bottom end as 85%, and leave the top end as 100% once the system is on. And when you come out of launch mode, you're back to the full thing there. Okie doke. And that is how you will get that. And so you can just adjust that bottom end. If we go in there with the symmetry off, you see you can just adjust that one on its own. See how it's adjusting just the bottom end of the curve. So we set it to, what was it you wanted, 15% minimum, which would be 85% below the center point, and there you are. And that's how you do it. Have fun with that.